You're listening to Daily Sip with Marcel, giving you morning moments of insight, laughter, and a little something to stir the soul.
So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Bob Bova. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Right, good. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family. This is December, and we have our monthly Breakfast with Bob Bova. And thanks, Bob, for being here as a guest. And I love having you. And I love having you as a friend. And all your best to your family. And everybody is doing well, I hope.
Yep. Everybody's great. Everyone's happy and healthy, productive. And and another beautiful day here in Southern California. It's 72 and gorgeous outside. So, looking forward to the holidays. In fact, going to a boat parade party tonight up in Huntington Harbor. It should be beautiful. So it's California does know how to do Christmas. They don't have the, you can go up to the snow if you want, but here on the coast, it's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, well, we're expecting a northeaster here and snow. We've got snow and it was plowable. Now so snow is fun. So tell me about Christmas in the Bova home. Do you have the Christmas tree up?
Actually, we're going to go pick it up this afternoon. We're going to go get it. But the garland's all up. A lot of these things are up. We're getting excited. We used to host a lot of people. It's dwindled down over the years because people have, moved away and had their own families. But we'll be having a gathering on Christmas Eve. We'll be cooking up. I think we're going to probably do Italian. We'll probably do some lasagna and I'll probably make sauce. And so we'll have a nice Italian Christmas Eve. We're really looking forward to that. I was at a really nice Christmas party at my wife's work, Hoag Hospital. Just such a nice, it's for stroke survivors and folks who have different types of brain maladies from stroke ordinarily. And this year was really something. I mean, they did a great job for a lot of patients were there, docs, and it's just nice. They had carolers, and it was really pretty great. And like I say, tonight we're going to Huntington Harbor, and then it's going to be a full event. And I think after Christmas, we're going to go up to North Hollywood, and I think we're going to spend a couple of days up there just to hang around, bring the kids and the kids, my sons, and just kind of hang out up there because it's always fun to be in LA Christmas time. Like I say, so we'll just go up there for a couple of days and hang out.
What do they do in LA? What do they do?
They have parades. They have, they're getting ready they'll get ready for the Rose Parade. They turn out pretty well. Plus, there's some really great museums. We were just up there a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine, Gloria, gave us a wonderful brunch. She and her boyfriend, who's actually from Italy, Falco, and they had us up there, and we ended up going to the Academy Awards Museum, which was really cool. We ended up going there and spent the afternoon there, and that's in LACMA's, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art's there, and La Brea Tar Pits are there. So it's all in this really nice area. And then of course they have their own MoMA there, and we're like, because we don't get up to LA hardly at all. And it's just like, gosh, there's so much to see. And since Brian Falco are going to his parents for Christmas, we were like, hey, would you mind if we, they have a beautiful apartment, gorgeous view up in North Hollywood. And they said, yeah, you can stay as long as you want. So we'll bring, the boys and head up there and have some fun. So,
have you also gone to the Rose Parade?
Yes. Not only have we gone, when my younger son was getting his Eagle Scout, one of the things he did for community service was he and I went up there and spent a whole day decorating floats, which was really fun. It's really, actually we spent most of our times, because we were bigger guys, unloading friggin' boxes and crates of flowers off the truck and bringing them out to people. So we did a lot of that, but it is really, it's amazing to see them put these floats together and how they have them all lined up and all the plans that they have for them and the different types of flowers. Truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of flowers, and you're taking them off in different colors. And it's quite an event. You see it on TV and you're like, wow, this is amazing. But watching the effort that goes into that parade is just so impressive. It really something.
Now, when you're there, can you actually smell the flowers too?
See, it's funny you should say that, because when we went up there, we were thinking, guys, it's going to be, the aroma. You really don't smell the flowers all that much. It's not like that. They don't seem to have the same kind of, like I say, the beautiful aroma that a lot of flowers have. I don't know why. You do smell it, but not with the intensity that you might think. But the different just the different varieties of roses and flowers and colors and seeds that they use, and it's quite quite a complex production, and the people are so patient and they're so nice. I mean, we had a wonderful time up there. I still have some great pictures of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of cool. Kind of cool.
That's very cool. You'll have to share some with me sometime. That parade happens on January 1st, and it's
Yep.
part of the Rose Bowl. Now, who plays in the Rose Bowl?
Well, I think this year the first, let's see who's it. I think Indiana, I think, is playing in the Rose Bowl this year for the first round of the college football playoff. I think Indiana's are they're in the second round. They're in the Rose Bowl. But the bowl system and the bowl season is all different now, because now with the college football playoff, the bowls don't mean so much. It's just it's just where they decide to put some of the games. But the story is that back in the day when the old Big Ten would play the Pac-12 or the Pac-10. And then they would have the parade. And so all the folks from the University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, Ohio State University, they would come out and see the game, and they come out on January 1st, like, wow, it's great out here. So the whole thing was a lot of California migration occurred because of that parade, because the fans would come out and see their sons and their daughters or whatever that were part of the game for any of those teams in the Midwest, which of course is, extremely voracious winter weather there. So they would come and they'd be like, God, this is actually pretty nice, So that's a lot how California grew, was because of the Rose Bowl parades.
Yeah, and it televised. Everybody loved watching. I still love watching. The two parades I love are Macy's on Thanksgiving Day, and of course the Rose Bowl parade on.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade was always something I really enjoyed watching. But now it's such, I don't know, I understand how it's evolved, and now it's these productions, and they have Broadway shows and all these different musical stars. But for me, it takes away from the parade. I'd rather see more marching bands and more, I don't know. I guess I'm an old man, a traditionalist. I prefer, because now the stuff that they do is just kind of, I don't know, it's like made for TV. And
it is made for TV.
Yeah. And I don't think that the folks actually go to the parade, and the parade itself has the same, the same feel and the same experience. But, have been to one live, actually a couple, I've been there a couple times live. The Macy's parade.
That's one parade I have been to.
Yep.
Yeah. It's one big gigantic commercial.
And I get it. I will say this, there is some cool exposure for some of the Broadway shows to show the rest of the country what it's like, some of those routines and some of the singing and some of the talent. That's kind of cool. And the Rockettes are always nice, but still, it's more of there's this, stage in front of Macy's, and they do it, and then they, I don't know. It just seems a little, I don't know. It's not in keeping with, it's not in keeping with the spirit, I think, of what the originality was, the original perspectives were. But, hey, you know what? Things change, and, you got to go with it. So,
yeah. Now tell me, so you get a real tree?
Oh yeah, yep. Still get a real tree.
Okay,
yep.
What do you cut it down, or you find one?
No. Actually, we go to Home Depot. They have a great selection of trees, different types, different kinds of fir trees and stuff, and we just go there, and the prices are reasonable, and that's usually where we go. So
how big is a tree? Is it?
We have a really high ceiling in our living room, so we usually get a 7 to 8 foot tree.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, do you have any special ornaments on it that you?
Oh, tons. I mean, stuff that we brought back from traveling. We have travel ornaments for them all over. We also have things that we've had for years. I've got stuff from when I was a kid that we still have. So yeah, that's one of the things that we do have some, ornaments that mean a lot to us. So
yeah. Great. Right. That's that's always nice. And so you're not doing the 7 fishes thing.
We have talked about it before, and we do, and we have done something similar to it in the past. It's funny you should mention what we're going to have this year, because Kim and I have been going back and forth what we wanted to make. We have made just a variety of different foods. Once we had Thanksgiving for 26, we've had Christmas for 31. Recently, we've kind of, a lot of those folks have grown up and have their own kids, and families have expanded and moved away, and we're really still trying to figure out what we want to do this year in terms of what we want to make. And so we'll probably talk about it today. She'll come home, and like I say, we'll go get the tree, and we'll have a chat about what we want to prepare. But we'll have some folks over, and we'll have some good food, and I just so enjoy the holidays. I just do. I really enjoy from Thanksgiving on. I love this time of year. And in California, for me, my favorite months here are October, November, and December. They're just the best. I mean, you walk along the beach, it's like 65, little breeze and sunny and nice, and the beaches are empty. There's nobody on them. And you just really enjoy it. And like I say, the trees turn here to the extent and the intensity, say, of the Midwest or the Northeast. But we do get some colors. And it's just, like I say, you go out, you play golf, you can wear a sweater. I mean, on Wednesday, it was 81 here, right?
Wow.
It was beautiful. Just so nice. And yeah, I mean, I do enjoy the Southern California lifestyle. The weather's just wonderful.
Are you playing golf?
Yeah, I play every week. I play all the time. Yeah.
Oh, how do you hit them? How do you hit them?
I play pretty well. In fact, I just got a new ping driver. I've had the same driver for 10 years, and I finally cracked it. And so I had to go get a new one. And
what size is it?
It's a ping. Was it the G4? It's not this year. This year's the 440. Last year's the 430. I bought last year's model at like a third of the price. It was brand new, and I got that, and I'm hitting that pretty well. I usually shoot in the mid 80s, somewhere in there. If I'm really hitting the ball well and I'm putting well, I can hit 80 or 79. Or if I'm not, I can shoot a 95. So anywhere between like 78 and 95, because I'm more nervous.
That's good.
And I still hit from the blues, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay, that's good. You're not in the senior citizen line.
Well, like I say, it's at some point I'm sure I'll move up to the more mature tees, but I can still put it out.
More mature tees.
Well, they say that the white tees are the things that you actually earn your way. You earn your way to the front tees, and if you can be old enough to get there, then that's a privilege. So, but right now I can still hit the ball pretty well. I can still put it out there 250, 260. So I'm doing all right.
Now, have you ever gone to like Top Flight?
Oh, Top Golf? Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. In fact, I was with Zebra Technologies a couple years ago. I was at an event, and they took us there to Atlanta, and I just had a ball. I mean, it's fun. It was funny. They've recently been in the news. They sold a bunch of Top Golf to a private equity firm, and it's for some reason has lost some of the luster. The folks have, in the first couple of years, it was really exciting. People really liked it, but people seem to have started to walk away from it. Their sales are dwindling, and it's too bad because I think it's a great way to introduce young people to the game. It's kind of fun. You can have some food. You can bring some folks. You can have a cocktail if you want. I thought it was a really cool concept, but it does appear that it's losing some of its popularity. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. And you can have dinner there, and you can hit the ball. There's different levels in the building, so people are hitting above you and people are hitting below you.
Right. You can shoot for far out, or you can shoot for close, or I mean, it's I think it's kind of cool.
I think it's cool. I like it.
It was fun.
It beats the old days of hitting a bucket of balls.
Actually, you say that I love going out because Luke and I we'll grab our sticks and we'll go and let's go hit a bucket because we're very fortunate. It's right down the hill. We can go to Strawberry Farms, which is a wonderful facility. And they've got a great 18 holes there, beautiful driver range, and the food there is great. I mean, they have a really nice clubhouse, and it's both course. I mean, anybody can go there, and it's just lovely. And so we go. Like I say, it is literally like 15 minutes from the house. We're very fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, that's cool. Very, very, very cool.
That's cool. That's like Southern California is a wonderful place to be a golfer because there are so many courses you can play, and they range in price. So as a senior, you can get on for $60 with a cart. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's nice. That's really good. So listen. So do you want to talk about anything in the news?
Well, it's been interesting. I've been following the Venezuela, especially since Maduro and the woman who just won the Nobel Peace Prize, whose daughter she accepted. Well, she actually came out of the Wall Street Journal today and was extolling the virtues of taking that Venezuelan tanker to put pressure on Maduro and to try to stir up democracy in Venezuela. I think it's interesting that she kind of gave some legitimacy to us usurping that tanker. She kind of came out and said that taking that tanker is a step in the right direction and trying to get him to step down and trying to get democracy to return to Venezuela. So I think as that continues to unfold that situation, it's going to be very interesting to see how the world reacts, how folks here in the country react, what kind of coverage it's going to get. Because I felt that her response to that action was very interesting to me. For her to come out and she was speaking, I think yesterday, she couldn't make the Peace Prize because they had to basically get her out of the country in a clandestine fashion so that they wouldn't, bind her and shoot her. But she finally got out, and the next day she was making some comments. I guess it was yesterday about everything. She's a pretty incredible woman. She's very committed to try to get Venezuela back into the democratic fold and try to get things up and going in terms of not under that authoritarian regime. So I wish her the best in all things, because I think her heart's in the right place, and I think she's trying to help those people of Venezuela. So that's interesting to me. It's also interesting to me, the whole thing with the college football playoff and Notre Dame not getting in and everybody making us think about that.
Wait a second. Wait. Okay. So I don't know anything about this. So you're going to enlighten me about this. First of all, I don't really follow too much college football. I do the NFL. I mean, I'm everything about the NFL, but college football, even though I like watching the games, but I don't know any of the teams. Notre Dame was one of those teams that I always loved. And they were like one of those teams.
Notre Dame has got that dichotomy. Either you love them or you hate them, right? That's how Notre Dame is. And they probably have one of the largest followings in the U.S. They're very popular. The football team doesn't even belong to a conference because they're independent, because they can be. They have their own deal with NBC. They make a ton of money off of it. And they didn't make the college playoff, and people were really upset. And so they came back and signed a letter of understanding with the committee from now on, saying that if they're in the top 12, they automatically get in. So there's this huge uproar over why they get special treatment over every other school in the country, which I find very, very interesting. They always have. But to kind of legitimize it with this letter of understanding is very interesting, because it doesn't seem fair to all the other schools. I don't understand how they can do that. But college sports in general right now are going through this tumultuous process of trying to figure out name, image, and likeness, and how they pay, and now they can transfer every year. I mean, there is this upheaval that's occurred that had to happen because so many college athletes were getting paid under the table and weren't getting paid, and bringing just hundreds of millions of dollars into these universities and not participating in those revenues. And it wasn't fair. But now it seems that we're at a point where it's not being managed properly, right? It's not good for the game for somebody to play at a different school every year. It's not good for the coaches because they don't know who they're going to be coaching. It's the stresses on administrations to be able to provide what they think is what I would consider a good college experience for the athletes, for the coaches, for the students, for the teams. It's really been turned upside down. So I think that as we move forward, this will continue to evolve, and hopefully they'll get their arms around it. But I do understand the premise of making sure that these young kids, do share in the revenue, but there also has to be some limitations in terms of how many times you could transfer, and some type of loyalty to a school who is going to give you a scholarship and it's going to give you NIL funds. You can't just skip around. I mean, there has to be some type of legitimization of the process, and I think that as we move forward, that will happen, because it's not just football, it's basketball now too. It can be any sport. It's, again, from my perspective, eventually what will happen is you will lose the avid fan base of the individual universities, because, there'll be nothing tying you to a specific athlete or a specific team, because they're different every year. And just because they have Syracuse across there, I say Syracuse because that's where I went, but, or Michigan or Ohio State or whatever, gosh, Michigan, they're having their own huge problem now. But I think that there has to be some type of management so that it all works. We don't want college sports to be like the pro sports, and we don't want them to be the minor leagues of the pro sports, even though they are. We want them to still have that, that collegiate innocence of these are young, people trying to put something together, something special. They only get a certain amount of time to do it. There's a magic to it. And some of the stuff right now is getting lost because of, the various things that I was talking about. But I love college football. I love college basketball. I love collegiate sports in general, because I think that there's a finiteness to the time. And I think the coaches can have a sincere impact on those young athletes. And I think those young athletes can have a sincere impact on the university. Like, the professionals in basketball and in the NFL, because that's a job, right? That becomes your vocation. That's what you do. It's just it's a completely different vibe.
It's starting to be that now they're looking at it. These players are looking at it as a job now, and I get it what you're saying, because when you go to college, you want to be proud of your school. And that's why you wear the colors and you wear the jackets and you support your team. But it's more than that, because the engineering school or the school of nursing or pharmacy or the school of medicine, whatever it is that you're doing and trying to better yourself for your future, that's part of being there.
It's absolutely true. And I think that, especially this age group of young people, that this entire experience of making friends, forging relationships, some of the relationships that I made in college, I still am very close with today.
Same here.
And when you're on a team or you're in a school, in a fraternity or in a dorm or whatever, building your own self-confidence in how to interact with different people and finding out what you like, what you don't like, who you don't like, things that all of that becomes, part of your identity, especially at that age. And in fact, if you listen to Scott Galloway today, he will say that he wishes young people, especially young men, would go out and do more and make more mistakes and, ask girls to go out and have them tell them no and, and live that whole life, that whole experience, so that they get that depth of character, right? And so if you have a group of young athletes, regardless of the sport, regardless of the school, and they're just hopping around year after year after year to play at a different school because they're giving them more money, that says a lot of things. Well, it's not only a job, but they only look at you as an economic asset, right? And you're not getting the full benefit of what I would consider the collegiate experience. You're not learning, you're not expanding, you're not evolving. You're just playing ball. That's all you're doing. And you're getting money to do it, and then you go to the next level. If you do get a chance to go to the next level, because a lot of these kids, most of these kids don't. So,
but listen, Bob, let me say this. If they're able to get the money right now in college, yes, love to be, a professional and be able to do your sport, whatever it is, after college. But if they make enough money at a certain level in college, they already got a great opportunity financially to move forward through life without even doing any more sports.
That is one side of that argument. But the other side of the argument is, if you're going to hop around, what are you sacrificing in terms of the quality of life? So yes, I absolutely agree that if you're bringing in millions, tens of millions of dollars to university because of your skill set, absolutely you should be compensated. But I also think that there should be some type of commensurate loyalty to the university who's making that commitment to you. If it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you shouldn't be able to just hop around. That's the part of it I think that needs to be reviewed. I absolutely agree with you. If you can get us, an NIL stipend and you can get money and you can put it away or put it in a trust, and so that you can build a life for yourself, absolutely correct. No question. However, I do believe that this kind of undervalues the actual collegiate experience for young people, just to be jumping around to get as much money as you can. Again, that evolution as a human being, that finding out who you are, building relationships, trying to figure out who you want to be, what you're really about, and learning how to learn. Another thing about college is I get very, very frustrated and upset when people say, "Oh, college is just a piece of paper." That's not true. If you go to college and you earn your degree and you've gone through all the machinations of understanding what your major is, making sure you have everything that you need to have for it, making sure that you do the work, and really involving yourself in your campus and committing to trying to understand the material, that is, again, maturation. That is understanding what it takes to be successful in life. That is understanding how to focus. That is understanding how to continue to be in a space, a philosophical space, where you understand in life, you have to continue to learn throughout. It never stops. And this is a template for that. So when the people, oh, it's just a piece of, I say that is so untrue, especially if you have, sons and daughters that you've watched and helped through college, and you see how hard they've worked and what they've tried to accomplish, and then they come out, and the person that comes out isn't anywhere near the person that came in. And I think that watching that process and the proliferation of the philosophies that get you there, and coming to terms with that personally and professionally, who you want to be, is very important. Circling all the way back around, it would be nice to get back to have a nice combination of NIL, but also to embrace the collegiate lifestyle so that people can evolve as people. Because there are stories, tons of young people who were athletes who got money and even became pros and got hurt, and then it all gets wasted. They get taken advantage of. They don't know how to use the money. They don't know. And it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman or whatever socioeconomic background you come from. If you're not properly tutored, that's why schools like Duke and North Carolina do a really good job of preparing their student athletes for that kind of thing. I give them full marks on that. But I still think that the real collegiate experience also helps in that respect, and gives these young folks a chance to really understand what it is that they want to do with their lives. The proliferation of social media also helps in this respect, because it does open up a lot of things. But as far as having positive impact, it also has the same negative impact in showing people, this is my yacht when it really isn't. These are my girls when they really aren't. I mean, it's just, there's so much lying and storytelling that's negative that's on there that's just ridiculous. I think that everything kind of finds its own level at some point. I always looked at college athletics as kind of a apple-cheeked, athletes fighting for their alma mater and feeling great and being proud. And now it seems that right now we're in a place where it's all about what you can get and where you can get it. And again, we need to find some type of a place where we can coalesce all this stuff and it makes sense for everybody so that everybody gets the best outcome.
I've got to ask you something. How many jumps do you think is fair? I think at least one jump is good. But when you go over like more than one, I think it's overdoing it.
Well, I think that what would have to happen is that some governing body like the NCAA or maybe a different type of governing body needs to think, okay, well, and you can never think about every situation. It becomes very, very difficult because there's injuries, there's red shirts, there's fifth year, there's COVID, you get a COVID year. So it's hard to predetermine everything that potentially could happen to a student athlete. However, I do believe that there should be some limitation based upon the commitment of a university to a person. So that if we're going to sign you up for NIL, we're going to sign up, we want a minimum of 3 years, right? Like you say. And so maybe they transfer after that third year, or maybe there's some type of a clause if you're injured or what. I mean, there's things that need to happen, but I do think that if you want to move once, that sounds reasonable to me. But there's these athletes that are moving every year somewhere else, or 2 years, and then they go for, and that's needs to be studied in terms of what these athletes are doing today. Take a look at everything that's happening, who's had the best experience, who hasn't, how would it work, how would the compensation transfer? Because there's folks that write checks for folks for 1 year, big checks, and then all of a sudden they leave because they can get a bigger check somewhere else. Well, that's not, I think, what college sports are supposed to be about. I understand they need to be compensated, and I understand it needs to be fair. But you're losing this ability to show some type of loyalty, and that is such a key thing right now, because it does appear to be an overarching lack of loyalty towards things anymore. Why should I be loyal, right? I mean, you see it. There's more divorces. There's more, people just don't seem to think they're so. Narcissistic is kind of strong, but they're very self-serving in what they want to do. It's all about me. What can I get? What can I do? And we kind of need to get back to, if we work together, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. And there needs to be that. I mean, altruism's a bit strong, but there needs to be that. Gosh, if we all work together, something great could really happen. And I think coaches really depend on that to really build their teams instead of just seeing what they have, trying to get the best things, pay the best guys, and see what can happen. It becomes much more difficult, I think. But again, things come around. Everything works in cycles. We shall see.
To me, it also starts a lot with right in the beginning when they have the big signing. the big signing day now is like the big. It's like
they pick the hat. They have a bunch of hats on the table, and they put the hat on.
Yeah.
Well, that was always kind of fun because, especially if you were like a 5-star athlete and you were looking at power teams, that was always kind of exciting, and it was good for the kid. It was like,
Right.
but that's supposed to lend itself to loyalty to that school, right?
Exactly.
You put that Syracuse University hat on, you put that Ohio State hat on. It's like, all right, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to spend the next 4 or 5 years, and this is where I'm going to commit. Now it's just a matter of whoever writes the biggest check is where I'm going, and I'm thinking, there is nothing like stepping on a college campus in the fall and just, Syracuse University's campus is so beautiful. I mean, it can get a little rough in the deep wintertime sometimes up there, but the school in the fall and the spring is just beautiful. The campus is gorgeous, and they've got wonderful facilities, and you fall in love with a place like that. Carmelo Anthony's a perfect example. Here's a guy who went to Syracuse for 1 year and just loved it and just continues to support the university. His son is on the team now. His son goes there. I mean, you get that loyalty that, it just courses through you. And I think that in some ways we're losing some of that. And I just don't want the colleges and universities to become generators of football and basketball players for the pros, and they lose that type of experience. I think it's a wonderful thing. So
now, okay, so that was our sports section.
You pick a topic now.
The Golden Dome.
Of the Golden Dome.
Yeah, what do you
Well,
think?
I think that the technology has shown that it can be effective. I think that Israel has shown that it can be effective. I think that there is a much more strategic and logistical challenge here in the U.S. to have something like that. I mean, the amount of investment is going to be just astronomical. But the issue becomes, especially with the advent of AI and everything else, that it's going to be harder for it to be as comprehensively protective that I think the architects want it to be. But it's up to smarter people than I am to figure out what the scenarios are and run all the financial and models and all the war game models and everything else to see exactly what the efficacy of it would be in terms of a cost benefit scenario, right? I just don't know anywhere near enough. I do think it's very impressive in terms of what the technology could provide. It does tend to lend itself a little bit to more isolationistic types of philosophies in terms of us just worrying about us. And that's the thing right now that is a little concerning about a lot of it, is that it is appeared to be isolationist. And we do tend to, right now, there is a perspective that we're kind of turning our back on NATO, we're turning our back on Europe, we're turning our back. And so I am of the opinion that we need to be a world leader. We need to protect and we need to be, for lack of a better vernacular, the world's policeman. We need to be one of those countries that really looks out for countries and people being taken over authoritarian regimes, all that. I've always felt that, to try to be that shining example on a hill that George Bush used to talk about, there's a amount of responsibility that occurs. And I think that the dome is a good idea. I think I always want to protect our country, but I also think that we need to reach out to our NATO allies and other countries that are friendly to us and reassure them that, there's a place for them in our sphere. Right now, I'm a little concerned that we're very, very chunky in terms of who we decide we're going to support, who we're not going to support, what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. It just seems to be an inconsistent message. That's a bit concerning to me. But if the dome makes sense financially and technologically, I'd be for it. I think it's good technology. I think it's also something potentially that other NATO allies could take advantage of too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
The problem that we have is, like you said, we have so much real estate here in the United States, and we have so many specific areas that if just one of those areas were attacked and we didn't have a Golden Dome to protect that area, it could be catastrophic. Just one place. Look at LA, look at New York City, look at Chicago, Baltimore. There's so many places, and those are just what I just named, like half a dozen of places, right? I mean, there's dozens that have so many things that can be completely destroyed that would affect the whole country.
I think But every other country has the same, every other large country has the same
Yeah, but
problem.
they don't have the real estate. Like, for
Well,
example,
Canada does, and
yeah,
Russia
Canada
does,
does, of
and
course. Yeah,
Australia. And
Canada,
I mean,
Australia does. Yes.
and like I say, we do tend to. I mean, we have very focused urban areas that would be more difficult to protect, I think. But there's also the capability of trying to assuage all Americans, saying, "Look, we're going to do the best we can to protect." But the fact is, we have a huge border with Canada. We have a big border with Mexico. So when people start to talk about, well, we need to protect our borders, I think that's true. I wish if we started to focus on that, I think it would be helpful. And one of the very few things I agree with our president with is I think he's done a good job tightening up our borders, which I think is smart. The rest of it, in terms of trying to defend our entire country because of the logistics of the geography, becomes very, very interesting. And I think that's why the Golden Dome makes people feel a little bit better, because they have in the back of their mind, this perspective of this dome over the U.S. But I also think that logistically and the technology itself, that's an oversimplistic representation of what actually is going to occur. And we need to get more details on exactly how it would work and what it would be, and specifically to some of these other things that they want to do. It's just, I don't know. It's a little depressing to me that we have to come to this to protect what we have, like that, and spend the money on that instead of spending money on healthcare and helping people and stuff like that. But we have to continue to defend. It's like, well, when can we stop having to defend and everyone's just, doing what they want to do?
I think you just hit the nail on the head. Well, what the real Golden Dome should be is trying to get people to live in peace together and work together, and not having to have, someone that will threaten you and want to take like your possessions or your house or your family or the finances of a country or whatever. I think the real Golden Dome is not with technology, but with trying to just get people to just work in peace and work together. And that is really the hardest thing.
Well,
Because
there are just some things that we have as mankind that make it difficult. Strong leadership always leads to conflict of some kind. But regardless of if you're a benevolent leader or not, there's always going to be a group or someone, a group of people or whatever that are going to disagree. And I mean, that's just how we are as humans. So there's always going to be some basis for conflict, even if, you're what I would consider, a good leader. And then you've got leadership in the world that is based on, religion. And when leadership is based on religion, it becomes very convoluted in terms of whose best interest are you really working towards. I mean, in terms of your people's best interest or the best interest of the dogma or the philosophy that religion is based upon. And once you go down that road, it becomes a very, very deep rabbit hole. And again, it's just rooted so historically in belief and prophets and everything else that, and not with a F, with a PH. So,
yeah, no, I know.
And it becomes extremely a very complex issue. But again, one of the good things about the internet, about these newer generations, these young people, about these folks, is that they're getting all the information now, right? All this stuff is starting to come out. It's becoming very, very interesting that the young people. I just saw that young lady Malala on the Jon Stewart show about her new book that she wrote and how she went to college and how she wanted the college experience and how she met somebody and got married, and how she's, this young woman who was attacked by the Taliban and became a Nobel Prize winner and wrote the book. And, and now here she is, I don't know, she's like around 30. And I think she has a daughter now or what, I mean, and living her life and saying, the information, it's all about starting schools so that they get information, access to the internet. It's all about education. That is the one thing that is going to proliferate and will continue to expand, is the ability and access of information, regardless of how hard a lot of these regimes try to shut down content. It always finds a way. And, I'm hoping that will lead to what you were discussing about how we can all just live in peace in our own way, and not have to attack and just try to take care of who we are and what we do. But that's been the dream for a long time. I just hope again that proliferation of information will accelerate that model.
Yeah.
We should.
Well, the information, as long as it's truth, is important. When you have so much false information, I mean, we're just talking about, the internet where, somebody has a yacht and they don't really have a yacht. They have friends that are gorgeous and they're not really friends and not real, and they don't really have all the money. I mean, that's only a small piece of the untruths that sort of become a growth that, takes over, and people get, the FOMO thing, where.
Right. But you hope that they take the next step to do the research and ask the questions to see if it's really true. And that is the hope, is that they'll take that next step. And that's the concern of something like AI, which is going to tell you what truth is, and without you having to do any research. That's the scary thing. What we want to do is we want to empower young people to be able to have tools to find the truth, but not necessarily rely on them 100% to make sure that they're right all the time, because nothing is. And, it's going to make mistakes. Again, there was another really interesting article in the journal today about Stanford University, how they had built an AI bot so that it could basically do a better job than hackers could to find out where all the vulnerabilities were in the engineering network. And it did a terrific job, but it missed some very simple things, right? The web page errors and other things, but it did a really good job. Again, once they took that information and took it the next step and did the work, they found more things that could help make it better. And that's what I'm hoping that will happen, is that people will take tools, but they'll continue to rely on their own intuition and their own ability to ask questions, to be curious. The key for everything is curiosity. Why is it this way? How does it look? How did this conclusion occur? What's the research? Those are the things that I think that we're losing, that curiousness. Because if you have that, then a lot of other things actually fall in line. If you're curious about what it's like to be out there and do something, then do it, right? And if you fail, that's okay. But if you're curious and you continue to learn, that's, again, you get into that continuous learning cycle, and the curiosity takes you. But, I'm hopeful that as we continue to proliferate information, even the bad stuff, that it will still get people to be curious and think, because that's what it's all about, is what you want to think about and what you want to do. So,
yeah, that curiosity killed the cat, but
not anymore.
Listen to this. But imagination brought it back, and that's what we have. Freedom in this country is to imagine that you have the ability to do anything. And I believe exactly what you believe, that education and being able to go out there and look for the truth, find out the information, and take your imagination and think about things and solutions and come up with ideas. And then with that comes an amazing society. And we have done that. We really have in this country. We have done that. I mean, I heard President Trump say something yesterday, which he said some amazing things, and some things are crazy. But what he did say was, if it wasn't for the United States of America, many things would not be possible today in all these countries around the world. Because our education systems, the people that have come out of it, the people we have educated, and our imagination based on the curiosity has really made us an amazing country.
I think there are many things that America is and portrays. The ability to work hard and believe in something is, and to build a life is, that entrepreneurial spirit, all that is something that really is very uniquely American. But there's also, I think, the freedom of intellectualism, where you can really believe almost anything you want to believe, and you can study it, you can think about it, you can create from it, you can identify with it. And that's a freedom that a lot of other countries don't have. I mean, a lot of European countries do. They have it too. And many times some of the European countries, the UK, I love talking to folks over there, and I have so many friends there. And their perspective is unique because they're so much older than thousands and thousands of history, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so their perspectives sometimes are tempered by what has happened historically in their families, just to their country. I mean, just you can go back millennia. Whereas here, we're just a baby. We're 250 years old, right? We're still just kind of figuring out what we want to be when we grow up. And that's why I think the freedom of ideas and the ability to bounce those off and communicate those and try new things and do new things. I think that's one of the reasons why Mom Dami won in New York. Like I said, he was throwing around new ideas, saying new things, and he was counterculture to the older guard that was trying to run against him, and so he won because they wanted to try some new ideas. They wanted to try some new things. Not going to say it's going to be a success. Not going to say it's not going to be a success, but they got him elected.
Some things really need to change.
Agree.
And you have to think out of the box to change them. Some things like you think are going to work, and then you try them out, experiment with it, and see how it works, and it doesn't work.
Well, and then you have, like, for instance, one of the things that I observed, and again, my opinion, is that when America was younger and smaller, we did some things and we managed them in ways administratively that worked. But now we're so big. We're such a juggernaut with so many people, so many different processes, so many different thought lines. It's really hard for a federal government to manage all this and have it be successful. That's why there's so much waste. That's why there's that horrible waste up in Minnesota by the community that took advantage of the COVID stuff. There's so much take advantage of all these different things in different cities. There needs to be, again, a new playbook as to if we are going to invest in local cities and local communities, which we should. I think that there needs to be a better recognition of the management of that. And we're so big and so spread out, and there's so much money and so many programs that the way that we used to do it just isn't effective anymore. So I'm hoping that technology, and even I'm going to say this, even utilizing AI properly, is going to allow for a better remuneration to the people who need the help and manage the fraudulent portion of it better. Because I am convinced that if crack down on the fraud and really put the money where it needs to go, from an education, from a welfare, from, young people, from family. It's interesting that we'd be helping so many more people. And you see where Michael Dell and his wife are backing an initiative to get young people, to get them started. What was it, $1,500 a piece or whatever?
$150 a piece.
Right.
And our government is giving them $1,000.
Right.
So any child that's born between 2025 and 2028 will receive $1,000. And then Michael Dell and his wife are going to seed another $250. And this may spur other companies like Microsoft and some others that might want to do that same thing.
Yes, exactly.
Which would be great. I would hope that there would be more. And there's going to be some education around that, how to see how that money grows in 18 years. And so we'll see how that all works. These are outside of the box things that we were talking about. Same ideas, different switch,
Well, there needs to be a proliferation of this from the very wealthy trillionaires, because right now there is such blowback on these really, really wealthy people, that they're making way too much money. They're not giving back to the country and the communities that have given them all this wealth. And I think that's a valid criticism. I do. And so when someone like Michael Dell sets up, or Bill Gates' ex-wife and all these folks, they're giving so much of this money away. And I'm thinking, if there was a mechanism where they could all get together and really try to make something very powerful occur, they could. Standing behind, my companies are doing so much for this, blah, 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 that's what we do. I'm sorry, but that's your job, right? I just feel that our government now just doesn't have the tools to be able to utilize what they need to do their job properly. It's a very complex problem, but I also think that the founding fathers wanted it to be more of a federalist state, where the state States were in charge of the health, safety, and well-being of their constituents. That's their job. So for me, having state-run healthcare so that everybody has healthcare, and they manage that money, and once they know that, and how you figure out what that mathematics is, again, that's beyond my pay grade. But if we were to break it out into 50 different administrative roles for each individual state to be respective of, and then the government managed that by looking at how effective they were, I think that would be a whole lot easier to do than having a great big government try to do it for everybody. That's just me.
Mhm.
And so if we could set something like that up, then all of a sudden when someone like Michael Dell, or I can't think of that wonderful woman's name, Bill Gates' ex-wife, if they wanted to do something, they could say, okay, we could take a look at all the statistics and all the machinations of how this was all put together, and we can spread it evenly so that it's fair for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of capability available. I just think that our federal government needs to stop usurping all this power and all the money and just say, look, we're going to give it to the individual states, even though they may have different political philosophies. There needs to be administrative tools in place so that everything gets done equally, and that will cut down on fraud instead of just trying to raise money to get elected. So, and that's an oversimplification, of course, too. Again, we've become such a huge corporate entity that it is impossible for a CEO to run the entire company. You have to depend on your lieutenants. Our lieutenants are the governors of the states. Our federal government needs to really start depending more on them to make sure that everything's done right. That, I think, and if their focus is making sure that the money's used properly, because again, that's a philosophy that a lot of Americans have. We're tired of paying taxes because we think that they're being wasted. We think that money isn't going to what it's supposed to go to. Here in California, there's a huge pushback on more money for the homeless because we put so many trillions of dollars into it and nothing changes. And people have had it. It's like, look, can you please put something in place that's going to make sure that this actually works now? Right. I mean, and again, there needs to be a rebuilding of trust, but I think doing it more locally would be more effective than doing it at the national level, because it's really, really difficult to do that. I don't care who your president is. It doesn't really
exactly.
matter.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with the president. It has to do with a lot of other things. And I agree with you. Well, listen, we did our hour in, so I want to thank you very much again for this time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Looking for 2026. It's going to be a fun year. I know 2025 was fun. 2026 is going to be a lot more fun. I know it is. I'm very optimistic about that. And I wish your family the best of health and have a beautiful and glorious Christmas and the new year. Have a blowout day for that. And again, thank you so, so much. I love you, my friend. So, Bob Bova, I will see you next year.
Yes, sir. Back at you.
All right. God bless you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thank you for letting me be part of your day. And until next time, keep noticing what makes life taste a little better. And if you're loving this, don't just sip in silence. Follow us, hit the subscribe button, and pour this into someone else's cup. Share it, spread it. Let's wake the world up together, one daily sip at a time.